Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap here on June the 28th of 2018. I'm Nick here with Chris. How you doing, man?
I was doing great, Nick.
You were.
Until I picked up and started reading the recommendation you picked for us. So I'm going to start off, Nick. I'm going to put you on a barrel. Fuck you for picking this series, Nick. Fuck you and everything you stand for. Oh, we'll get to it. We'll get to what you did. But I want to also note, there's another Strongest Legend Kurosawa manga that's not this one. And I had read that, and then today I was like, I thought someone said there are two. Let me just double check, and I was like, shit, that's the wrong one. So I spent as much time today.
You read the sequel series before you had
I read a portion of the sequel series, and I was planning to finish it today until I checked, and I was like, God damn it, they're two different things. And I finished. I got through as much as I could of the current one, and it's an annoyingly awful thing that is bad and makes me hate Nick for recommending it. But we'll get into it when we actually talk about the series.
Yay! Yeah. I don't really have. I've got a few, like, stuff isn't kind of all condensed into my skull region quite yet, so I'm a little bit hazy right now.
I can explain this series to everybody if you'd like.
Oh, do you actually want to kick us off on this?
Yeah, so Strongest Legend Kurosawa is a story of Kurosawa. Yeah, it's a recommendation we took. It is a story of Kurosawa, who, I don't know if we ever get an exact age for him, seems to be like maybe like early 40s-ish.
Early mid-40s, I think, yeah.
Yeah, early mid-40s-ish, construction worker supervisor who is very, very lonely and sad in life. He's very sad because he doesn't have any family. He doesn't have any, like, direct siblings or anything like that. He doesn't have any close friends. He's not particularly close with his coworkers. He doesn't have a girlfriend. He doesn't have anyone who will talk to him unless it's like a fucking cashier or something like that. Nobody likes him, and he can't understand why. And he's very upset, and the crippling loneliness is sending him on a spiral. And the only person he can find to talk to is the fucking robotic mannequin that they use at the construction sites to direct traffic, that he treats like a real person and sleeps with sometimes because he's looking for any touch of humanity he can get. And then sometimes he's aware enough of his own loneliness to recognize why he's in the problem, but he continuously pushes himself in worse directions. Like, he doesn't fully grasp everything and overthinks things, so he'll fuck up constantly, and then you sit there and you watch him try to deal with it as he's like punching himself in the head, like, why did I do this? Stupid. And I had to sit here and say, no, Chris, they don't have a mangaka drawing your life in the corner of the room. It just seems that similar. And then he starts beating up high schoolers, and that's the series, I guess. I don't know what the fuck this series was, Nick. This was like 12 chapters of the most depressing life I've ever read, and then he starts beating up high schoolers.
It's really weird. The simplest way that I guess that I could describe it, it's like a combination of Watamote and the 40-year-old version starring Steve Carell. That's what it's like to me. This guy is completely alone in his life, and is sad and has no idea how to deal with it because he has horrible social anxiety and literally no social skills to speak of whatsoever. I didn't really like this manga, not because it made me feel things, but because literally I would just be reading it, and he would get himself into these situations where he would feel bad about his lot in life, and his way about going about it was a joke that you were supposed to feel bad about. This manga goes back and forth between weird comedy and very, very dramatic, over-the-top, why is my life this way monologues. And you could say, well, you just mentioned Watamote before that. You liked that manga. And so that's true. But Tomoko didn't have random wacky shenanigans happen to her and then spend the entire second half of the chapter going, oh, this sucks, it's awful. It was more like a comic strip where it just like you kind of had like, one last page of self-reflection, and then you were like, oh, well, now it's not quite as funny because I kind of feel bad for her. I think that this manga wants to have its cake and eat it too. It wants you to laugh at the loser, but also to feel bad for him.
Well,
and I don't like that.
So to dig into it, it is primarily a comedy series for the most part. You would be hard pressed to tell because I think it's the first 3 straight chapters are nothing but a monologue from Kurosawa about how unhappy he is with his lot in life. But when it finally kind of like proceeds into the manga proper, there is a level of humor to it because it's him trying to turn his life around, and he'll always think like, I'm going to get these guys extra fried fish for their lunches. And
just
it's gonna
offer them fried fish.
And he'll
just offer them fried fish. Just offer them fried fish.
Too easy.
Just offer them fried fish.
So he'll imagine the scenario of how it's going to go, and it's like the goofiest thing. It's not so exaggerated that it'd be like a parody we'd make on Weekly Manga Recap, where it's like a bunch of like the mayor comes by and high fives him. It's like a train of supermodels come out to blow him for this idea. But it's just short of that, where it's like all the guys like, this is the greatest thing you've ever suggested, Kurosawa. You're the best, man. Kurosawa was so great. And
let's carry him to work on our shoulders.
Yeah, and like he's imagining us, and then when he does it, he's just so socially awkward and weird with everything that it doesn't go right. And then it's like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode where like it's just the cringiness of watching this guy not know how to react to to this thing in a normal way, and then it just blows up in his face basically. And that's sort of like the comedy angle. But then again, that chapter, I think, then ends with him being like, God, why can't I get this right? And you're just like, I don't know where I'm supposed to laugh at this. And it's just a very strange. I have not finished it. I completely admit that because I messed up which series we were reading until the day of, basically. But I got through about like 30 or so chapters of it. And the crazy thing is the shift that happens. So around like midway through the teens or so, Kurosawa actually finally starts making friends, because the first star of the series is like, it's almost like he's in like an old sitcom and he has like the rival character to him, like the rival guy at work. But this guy's blissfully, like, he's just a good dude and doesn't realize Kurosawa hates him for how great and accomplished like he is. So it's like a constant like joke scenario that the guy's just like, oh, I didn't get any fried fish and I saw Kurosawa was eating too, but he seems so happy, so I'm just going to let him go ahead with it. And everyone else is like, Kurosawa, that fat fuck, stole that guy's fish. And Kurosawa's like, oh, he played me. He beat me in the manipulative game. And meanwhile, that guy's just like, I'm so happy he got 2 pieces of fish. So you get like...
Well, they find out later on that that was Kurosawa who got everyone the fish. And then everyone's like, wait, so he just like got all this fish and like snuck it into our lunches? That's kind of weird. And Kurosawa was like, no, I wanted to do something nice for everyone so that you would like me. Everyone's like, it's so weird. He went around behind everyone's backs to do that creep. And the other guy's like, I'm really glad that Kurosawa decided to do something nice for everyone.
Yeah. It's this strange scenario. So it starts off like that, but eventually a situation happens where he's trying to like be a good employee. So he goes out for like an extra shift somewhere. He gets sick because of it. He gets like talked down to by the supervisor on that shift.
Who's just an asshole for no reason.
Just a complete dickhead. And on his way home, he starts like he's sleep deprived, he's sick, he starts wobbling on his bike, and he passes by his coworkers who are going out for drinks, and they're like, "Hey, is that Kurosawa?" And they're like, "No, let's not invite him. He looks like he's already drunk. I don't want to drink with drunk people." And then they see he's like going into traffic, and they're like, "Oh shit, we gotta save him." So they do that, and then they find out there was an accident on the lot, and the stupid robot mannequin got hurt. So Kurosawa makes some big impassioned speech in front of like the broken robot about like, you're still worthwhile, you're not falling apart, you're still chugging along, you're proud. And it inspires all of his coworkers to like him. And that's a fine moment. You get like, you need a fucking taste of humanity in this series, because otherwise you're just going to sit here being like, why am I reading this?
That's how I felt anyway, but go ahead.
So you get that, and what follows that is like he starts forming like a relationship with his co-workers a little bit. They start going out to eat, and that makes this really hard pivot. He basically has like a situation where a bunch of like high school bullies, I think they are. I think they're
supposed to be in middle school.
Yeah, maybe they're in middle school. I don't know. They're fucking enormous.
These guys are fucking hardcore, but anyway.
Yeah, so a bunch of middle schoolers are like trying to just extort some money out of them, and it ends up essentially leading to a point where Kurosawa gets beaten with baseball bats underneath a bridge in the middle of the night. Like, he's taken baseballs to the dick and the face. He probably has a concussion. The one girl in the group is like, I'll let anyone bang me who hits this guy in the head with the baseball bat. And he's just screaming like, oh God, I'm gonna die. This is how I'm gonna die. And they throw a weird joke in where he's supposed to be like...
No. Let's do the whole context here to understand this series' weird roller coaster from comedy to drama to comedy. So it starts off in a kind of sitcom scenario because these guys are basically being shits to everyone while Kurosawa is away from the table at the place that they're drinking at. Kurosawa comes by and he's drunk and he doesn't know what's actually going on. So he sees, these punks and he's like, stand up straight and dress properly. You respect your senpai. And so they leave after that. And everyone's like, oh, Kurosawa, you showed those brats. Yeah, you're awesome. Like, what the fuck just happened? Hey, I'm popular. Hey. They go home for the night and they go their separate ways. And the girl who is with the hoodlums shows up and she calls over to Kurosawa from the seat of a car. She's like, hey, come get in. And he's like, what's going on here? Wait, is this girl in love with me? Oh, but I can't do that. She's far too young. Well, and then, of course, the other hoodlums kind of like shove him into the car so that they could drive off with him. And he's like, hey, this doesn't seem right.
I'm not going to get laid at all.
What's going on here? Wait a minute. Oh, wait, maybe this is what happened. Maybe they're so supportive of her that they decided to come along to make sure things would go well.
Those are the moments actually kind of like when he's almost so stupid in his scenario, he just can't connect with reality at all. He's so disconnected. Almost if it was like an Angel Densetsu thing, where like the hero was blissfully ignorant of the real scenarios they were in.
Which, if that were it, that would be fine. Yeah. But then it leads to him as like, wait a minute. These kids are going to beat the crap out of me. They're going to kill me, aren't they? Oh, shit.
Oh, God. They don't care at all.
Why am I going to die like this? They just don't care. And he goes on a monologue about himself, which is whatever happens whenever something bad happens to him. So they start, bullying him after they've driven him out to this ditch somewhere. And he keeps on thinking of these ideas like, I should seize the opportunity now to do something. And then he doesn't. He just gets the crap beaten out of him. And that happens for like 3 straight chapters of him thinking of what he can possibly do in the situation. And it's understandable that he doesn't take action because he's freaking scared witless and he was just sleep deprived and drunk. He's probably not, in his best physical state right now. So they're about to kill this guy when finally his friends realize that something is wrong. And they've shown up to help right before they can actually literally kill Kurosawa. Kurosawa doesn't realize he's been saved, so he answers the girl's demands that he, apologize to them by being like, all right, I'll pay you as much money as you want. I don't have much, but I'll go into debt for you. I'll perform for you. I know. I'll strip naked for you. And he just takes his pants off in front of all the people who have come to save him. And he's like, shit his pants. And it's just like, and suddenly it's a joke again. And it's like, what is the point of this? Is it supposed to be funny or are you supposed to feel bad for him? And I think it's literally just like, it's supposed to be both. You're supposed to be able to get both out of it. And just accept that those come into conflict with each other a whole lot because this guy's so pathetic. And I did not like that. It keeps happening.
It's a tough thing, and that's where the series makes like a strong pivot then, because after that event, he Kurosawa has like an off-screen awakening where he kind of realizes he needs to be a stronger man. So it's so weird because I feel like if you just twist this would actually be a hysterical comedy. He decides the only proper way to do this is to go and ambush a bunch of 14-year-olds and beat them up. I don't even know if they're 14. They might be 11. All I know. But he's like, I have to beat up children to earn my honor back. And he does, and it becomes like a boxing manga for a little bit. And he has like a whole intense thing where he's fighting these guys and like he beats up the one like main guy of that group, and then like a second leader comes up behind after that, and they have this big fight, and it becomes this intense thing where like they end up in the middle of the woods fighting each other with like aluminum bats, like metal rods, essentially. A single thing that they kind of note, they're like, if this hits one person, we're dead. Like, there's no way if this catches you in the face, you're living from this. They continue to echo that over and over again. And Kurosawa was this old dude. Even though he works in a construction yard, he's going to be kind of undone energy-wise by this young guy. But eventually, Kurosawa was just putting so much of himself into it that the guy kind of realizes, like, you know, I probably can beat him, but it's not worth risking it in this fight.
Right. It's one of those things where Kurosawa is such a loser that he has nothing to lose, whereas the kid's got his whole life ahead of him. So,
and a guy just like, the kid just gives up. And this kind of starts Kurosawa kind of going on this mission of being like, you need to stand up for yourself, and leads to a whole bunch of different fights. There's one fight where he covers himself in spikes and threatens to beat everyone up with his poop at one point. It's such a bizarre fucking series. I'm reading the last couple chapters now off on the side, and it looks like he dies in a fight in a construction yard. I don't get what this series is, Nick. It seems, honestly, the weirdest comparison I can kind of put to it, but it kind of feels like Fight Club a little bit. Where, like, it's a guy going through a midlife crisis who finds his value in fighting people. It's just, instead of, like, the anti-capitalist messages of Fight Club and the weird Chuck Palahniuk stuff, it's in the idea of just, like, standing up for yourself and being selfless. But again, it's all predicated, at least at the start, on beating up, like, hoodlum teenagers and shit like that. So I don't know.
So, you're meant to think for a bit at the end that Kurosawa dies. He actually goes into a coma in order to set up the sequel series when he wakes up.
Which, did you read the sequel series at all?
No.
I want to start with this. I just want to know. I started with the sequel series. I was like, this shit is the dumbest thing in the world I've ever read. Because Kurosawa's in heaven, and everyone's sitting around drinking and having a great time. But Kurosawa hates heaven because there are no chicks there. And the reason there are no chicks there is because all women are inherently evil and go to hell, where they tempt the devils and have sex with them. Which was like a weird message to start with. But then Kurosawa gets himself into like a one scenario where he's like, he's conscious and awake, but he can't move any of his muscles. And he's really upset because his room has become the gay guy hookup spot. And a bunch of gay people go to his room to have sex. And I was like, what the fuck is this series? And I like that series 1,000 times more than the real one, Nick.
That sounds, that Fight Club comparison actually sounds very appropriate for that beginning, considering, you know, what that, you know, book and movie had to say about toxic masculinity and sexism and homophobia and stuff. So, anyway. So, at the end of the series, the first one, Kurosawa has, you know, he's found his purpose in fighting and stuff, and it looks like he's going to die after this big, like, gang fight that he's involved in, where he helps a bunch of homeless people fight, you know, hoodlum teenagers. And it looks like he's going to die, and most of the last chapter is him remembering, flashing back to a moment when he was a child, and he would crush ants for funsies. And there's a moment where an ant bit his hand, and Kurosawa finds himself cheering on the brave little ant that went up against phenomenal odds and struck back against its tremendous, larger-than-life oppressor. And he equates this by saying, he's like, "You're just like me, little ant. Life tried to crush us both with overwhelming strength. It tried to beat us down, but we kept on fighting, kept on struggling. Even if it was pointless, we wouldn't let ourselves be crushed." And I'm just reading this and I'm thinking, don't explain your ant metaphor. Did you not learn anything from Game of Thrones? You say there's a scene of people being crushed by ants, and then you don't explain it, so that then you're left to kind of interpret it yourself. And he's just like, see, I was like that ant. I was like, what? Doing something pointless in a vast sea of pointlessness? And that doesn't make me feel good about you, man. It makes me think that I wasted my time reading about your life.
Well, here's the thing. So I do give this series a little bit of credit because It would be a more obvious and simple series if Kurosawa were just like the Angel Densetsu series, where he's, ignorantly unaware of the fact that he can't make friends, and like these goofy scenarios keep coming up to come up with it. But instead they keep kind of showing that Kurosawa isn't like an innocently noble person. He's got a lot of issues and he can't communicate himself at all. So he's constantly sitting there being like, I'm so alone. I'm so lonely. God, it hurts so much. I just want to make friends with these people. But then the first time like a wrinkle comes into his plan, his usual response is anger and like vitriol. And he has like the first time somebody like he thinks that somebody forgot his lunch, he's just like, God damn you kids, don't you respect your seniors? And everyone's like, fuck this grumpy old dude.
Honestly, that was the moment where I found myself unable to feel any sympathy for him, no matter what, because I knew it was just like, this guy is actually not worth feeling bad for.
Yeah, and I think there's an interesting element to that where you can kind of look at it like you're not supposed to find Kurosawa to be the most inspiring person, but the rest of the series is a strange look through the rest of it. Like, if you're not supposed to find him inspiring, I'm not really sure what the rest is. Like, the whole series is kind of like the last grasp of a hopeless midlife crisis person trying to find something to connect to. And it's a strange thing to go into that. If you're looking at it as like a character study, like your end result is to be like, oh, well, Kurosawa was maybe not an awful person, but he had his very big problems and he didn't deal with them in a responsible way. And that'd be fine, but he's treated like the noble sacrificial hero at the end of it, and characters are constantly inspired by his like passion and dedication to himself. He's constantly like inspiring strangers around him just by his speeches. Like a dude would be like sitting behind at the counter at like a restaurant, just like, his story mimics mine. I believe in you, Kurosawa Senpai. I will follow you. And you're just like, I mean, it's weird. Like, if it was just a story about an old guy who's very lonely finding friends, I'd be so much more into it. I could kind of appreciate what the series tries to do, but it's so strange with its balance that it doesn't really have between comedy and humor. And I don't know. I really... The beginning, like the first 12 or so chapters of this series is honestly one of the most depressing things we've ever read. Like, we've read stories about characters committing suicide and shit. Like, we read all of Homunculus. I don't know what that shit was if not depressing. But this series still might top all that. And it was to the level of, like, wolf guy hatred for me, where I was like, I hate this manga. I want this to end. I'm so angry that we're reading this. And then it changed into something else, which I guess I'm glad about, because it's not just a character like lamenting why they're still alive for 12 chapters. But it's such a strange thing it changes into. I still don't know if I like it or not. Like, I leave that point, I'm just like, I don't know. And to know, in the chat, Josh is asking, no, he really doesn't get his peanuts. He doesn't, like, get better, per se. Like, he's earned the respect of his coworkers, but... like, it put him into a coma. I mean, there's a sequel series, which I didn't finish, and I don't know, maybe at the end of that, he gets a girlfriend and has a kid. That's the shit I need to talk about. The one chapter that pissed me off so much, there's a chapter where he's in the park, and a little boy is lost. And
it's such a weird chapter.
And he picks up this little boy, and he's like, hey, wait, where's your parent? And, like, the kid doesn't know. Kid's not old enough to really do it. It's, like, maybe, like,
this kid's, like, 2 or 3,
It's probably not even that old, because he can't really talk either. So he's picking up this kid, and he's kind of taking around trying to find where his parent is. And he starts bonding with this kid a little bit. And he's like, we'll go back to the park. And I'm kind of old and tired, so I'm going to take a nap on the bench. And you're a kid. You're going to nap on top of me. And the entire time he's thinking about what this child's future is going to be like. And he's imagining it. And he's like, oh, he's going to be in kindergarten, then in grade school, and then middle school. And he's imagining this kid's like graduation ceremonies, his first time riding a motorcycle, going, like, he's imagining his entire life. And then he realizes he's picturing himself there as the parent for this child. This child he's literally just met over like the course of 2 hours, maybe. And all these scenes, and you realize just how desperate this guy is for any kind of connection, that he's transposing himself as the father to this child he just met. And he has imagined his whole life. And then he wakes up, and the police have surrounded him, because I guess they saw this stranger with a young child on his chest.
Well, they knew that the child was missing by that time.
Yeah.
because he's been missing for a few hours.
Because the mother's there too, and they immediately give the child to the mother, and then they bring him in for questioning, and then that's it. Like, the chapter ends with him getting like kicked out of the police station. Like, we didn't arrest you, we brought you in for questioning. He's just like, God damn it, and that's it. And you're just like, fuck. What was like? I know I shouldn't have expected.
He's lonely, Chris.
I know.
That's the point.
I know I shouldn't have expected the little kid to just be like, no, he's a good guy. Don't do this. He's like a fucking baby. But it's still just like, fuck. Why did I read this? This is so sad.
It's one of those things where it's like, well, life just stepped on Kurosawa again. Don't you feel bad for him? But it was also kind of funny, wasn't it? The thing about this manga, I think, is we have read quite a number of series that deal with characters who have social anxiety issues, who are lonely, seeking some sort of purpose in life. And I think that Kurosawa is like the most pathetic protagonist of any that we have ever covered, because in addition to being even lonelier than a lot of the people that we've talked about, for example, talking about the comparison I made before, Kuroki in Watamote had at least one friend, and she had a family that did care for her in a way. Talking about, this freaking Steve Carell in the 40-year-old version, he had friends at work that, cared about it. It was just, the sexual hang-up issues with him. When we did Komi-san, she had a family that cared about her, and she was able to make friends at a much earlier age. Kurosawa is in his 40s, and he's got nobody in his life seemingly that cares about him at all. And no prospects for advancement, no hopes for the future, except for, I want to be respected by people. I just want people to care about me. And despite that, I don't really care if he gets his peanuts or not. I don't think that I would lose any sleep if he had died at the end of this series, and at the end everyone was just kind of like, well, this guy was kind of weird, wasn't he? Which is not the way that they addressed it. They're like, oh no, Kurosawa, don't die. He finally found people that he feels accepted among. He does kind of. He may not get all of his peanuts, but he gets at least one.
Yeah. But he also had that same peanut 60 chapters earlier. Like, he had won the friendship of his coworkers by that point, and then he got into a weird situation where a bunch of teenagers beat him up, and he's like, better beat them up back now. And it starts this chain of events.
Now that I've got my one peanut, I'm going to use that peanut to attack teenagers.
I hope they have peanut allergies.
He doesn't even try and attack them. He's just like, smell it.
He's like Diddy Kong. He's just shooting them out of like a gun. I'm not super hateful of this series the same way I was when I started. If only because if this had been 80 chapters of the start of this series, and maybe it is when you read the whole thing again. I only got through about 30 chapters of it today. But the fact that it eventually becomes something else at least gave me something to be like, well, this is weird and not stupid, like not depressingly awful, which I give some weird level of appreciation for, I guess. I guess that's the bar I lifted this series to. Like, it's not depressingly awful for most of it. But I still can't recommend this to anybody. I think if you're looking for a series that's a comedy about somebody who has like a weird lot in life, we've done plenty of other ones like that. Angel Densetsu, I brought up several times, is a much better kind of series of like somebody who's just like a comedic situation that's very goofy. And then if you're looking for somebody who's just like a weird place in life and just dealing with the drama of that, like we've done Real, as you mentioned, Watamote, like there's plenty of series we've talked about that are this done, not this exact scenario, but done better. Again, I can appreciate it as a character study of like somebody who is very lonely and is self-aware of it, but still overthinks every solution they try to have to the problem. And I think there's a value there that I can appreciate. But if you're looking for any kind of enjoyable read, I mean, unless you are going to like laugh your tits off when he covers himself in spikes and throws poop at teenagers, like, I don't know what else I can tell you. There's not a lot of laughs to be had. They're few and far between.
I think that there is definitely, I cannot imagine this series really getting by just on like the dramatic parts of it. I think that it's probably that, I think that the humor kind of carries people through on this, and it didn't really appeal to me. So there you go. All right, guys. I guess we'll take this as a moment before we get into the recap portion of the manga recap to once again plug the weekly manga recap Discord server, because this recommendation came to us through there. We have a whole thread or chat room in the Discord server that lets you submit your own recommendations. I'm tired. Submit your own recommendations for series for us to cover on weekly manga recap. So be sure to join that and drop that in there. All right, Chris, let's do the recap portion of weekly manga recap. It's going to be a weird one because we're down 2 series and up 2 series. So
just as expected.
Yeah. Let's begin with My Hero Academia, chapter number 188, Your Father, the Number One Hero. Last time, Endeavor was fighting the special Nomu. He continues to do so. So anyway, next chapter. Okay, building starts to, fall apart around everyone because of the damage that's been done to it during the battle. So Endeavor uses his flames to cut apart? I don't know. They say that specifically. He uses fire to cut it apart. I don't know how that works, but he manages to somehow blow it apart with heat, I guess. Which Hawks kind of objects to because he's like, you're not dividing it up into equal pieces. You're making my job more difficult and cleaning up the debris before it can fall on people. And he's like, shut up!
Fuck you.
Or rather, he says specifically, well, excuse me! Some backup arrives on the ground. They're shooting stuff at the Nomu down below, and it sends out kind of offshoots of itself, little spore creatures like the monster in Cloverfield. And Endeavor takes a moment to analyze all the different quirks that it has at its disposal, like transforming arms and jets so that it can fly, super strength, regeneration, and also fission, although it's possible that it's just got these creatures stored within its body. It's not actually a quirk. And then he realizes that the Nomu is actually thinking and analyzing during the battle, because it knew to distract the ground support with these creatures so that it can focus on Hawks and on Endeavor himself. Hawks uses some of his feathers like swords to cut up some of the offshoot creatures, which is pretty awesome. And Endeavor kind of thinks on his situation because the Nomu basically is just like, you're not shooting anymore. Basically, it figures out that Endeavor has a limit to his powers, and Endeavor admits that to himself because his flash fire fist condenses his flames to white-hot points, and it's supposed to be a one-hit finisher. Rampant use raises my body heat, which slows down my whole system, and I'm already at a disadvantage in both speed and power. My body just keeps overheating, and he thinks about his family, and that's why with you, and you, and you... I was like, okay, so he knew the limits of his quirk, and that's why he was like, if I have a child with hot and cold powers, then they won't overheat. So time to genetically experiment and dispose the ones that don't work out. Okay, hang on, you took it a step too far.
Uh-oh.
The Nomu attacks Endeavor again. So Endeavor's like, all right, fine then. I'm going to really, really hit you hard now. Or, as he puts it, a purgatory you can't escape or regenerate from. Burn away to nothing. Big old blast of flame from his entire body blasts out at the Nomu, which seems to disintegrate, but then its head appears some distance away, regenerates its body, and attacks Endeavor. And he's like, it tore its own head off and threw it away before the heat could get it.
That's pretty dope. I do love that strategy. This'll work. Ow! Whoop.
And it lashes out with these extensions from its body, one of which seems to just gouge straight through Endeavor's eye. I think that it slashes upwards through it, So it's mostly a grazing shot, but it really fucks up his eye when it hits him and sends him crashing to the ground. And by this point, the battle is being televised. So Endeavor's two kids who are visiting, Fuyumi and Natsuo, are watching it on like a
laptop.
A tablet, it looks like. His wife is completely ignorant of this because she has no screens in her hospital room, it looks like. But Todoroki sees it in the dorm room at UA. And like one of the most like pretty pictures of Todoroki I think I've ever seen, actually. The flowing hair and says and I was like, well, my hero got his eye gouged out. Hey, Ari, let's go back to your room. I do like some of the bits of people reacting to the fight that we get to see. For example, we see Toshinori clutching his old wound. It's like, oh yeah, he was heavily wounded in battle, and so he's kind of sympathizing with his comrade there. And the Nomu is crouching, seemingly triumphant over Endeavor's body, while it demands more strong opponents. And we get the kind of finish of Endeavor's thought before, where he was thinking that, he wants his family to see him and not see him be pathetic. I'm hoping to become a hero you can be proud of. Your father, the number one hero, someone deserving of those titles. As everyone's like, oh, Todoroki, your dad got fucked up.
Yeah, Todoroki, your dad sucks. They're like, he blows. Bring in Washi.
Can you imagine, like, if, I don't know, like, fucking Kirishima was like, wow, my pro's way better than your pro.
This is a... Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
It's sort of an interesting chapter. I'm not quite sure how to feel on it, because it could just be, like, a simple setup, like, Endeavor at his worst, and then he'll rise up the next chapter at a badass moment, and it's all like, it's because I'm trying to be inspiring to you and to everybody else, and even at my worst, I'm still going to take this guy down. But it's weird, because we get that, like, the shot of everybody reacting, and I can't tell if we're supposed to exactly get it, but the paneling almost makes it think that we get, like, that weird scene where, like, the flower that he got his wife, like, it doesn't look like it does, but I keep expecting it to, like, wilt or, like, a bunch of flowers to go down, because she does or no, that's the daughter reacting, sorry.
No, she has no idea.
Yes, but, like, we see, like, the panel of Todoroki and everybody reacting to it, and it's like, one, I'd be infuriated if he died right now. Like, it would be, like, to a point, like, fuck this series forever if they killed off Endeavor. Like, they're like, so obviously they're not doing that. And I can't help but think this is my hero doing that same bullshit again of just, like, and I never, like, life was never the same after I learned Ayama's secret. Like, it's like that exact same thing where they're really setting it up to be something else, but the next chapter's gonna happen and it's fucking nothing. Because it feels like a lot of build up to the idea of, like, oh no, Endeavor's really hurt. Maybe it's just the way the manga's kind of framed. But my hope is that he just gets up, it's a big badass moment for him, and he kicks the shit out of this Nomu.
Right. I mean, that's a bad injury, but it does not look like a fatal one. Yeah. Unless it actually is much deeper than it first looks. But by the way that it kind of rips up his lip before going into his eye, it doesn't look as though it got too deep into his head. Mm-hmm. I said when this fight started, like, I don't think this is going to go very well for Endeavor a couple of weeks ago. But this is more along the lines, him suffering a big wound and having trouble is more along the lines of what I expected than it does, like, oh, he's going to lose. And then the way that this moment is framed does not make me think like, oh, well, then he just lost. If it were, because when you consider the implications of that, that would be, oh, the new Nomo that are now at the disposal of Shigaraki or whoever is capable of defeating the new number one hero just outright. And then in that case, it'd be like, well, then we're fucked. And that is not the framing of what you see there. I think that if there were a moment it's like, oh, Endeavor is just done, he is down, then it would be framed to be all about that, as opposed to seeing, honestly, kind of unimportant people reacting to it. Like, if it were just his family, just the other Todorokis reacting to it, it would be one thing. But, when Aizawa takes a moment and goes like, hey, Harry, let's not pay attention to the TV. That kind of takes away from that. And I think that what this is supposed to be is just like, wow, look at how nasty that injury that he suffered is. Not, yeah, Endeavor's dead now, guys. So
I should preface this by saying I had this chapter spoiled to me by one of my D&D players who just started reading the manga because he usually followed the anime, but he's like, he loves the series so much he started reading it. So he just texted me. He's like, "You think Endeavor's dead?" And it was like Sunday night, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, you haven't read the newest chapter?" It's like, no, it doesn't come out until Monday.
I read it on scanlations.org or whatever.
Yeah, I was like, you fucker. It's like, no, I find out Monday. But like, I like the opening of just like, and not like, have you read the newest chapter? Just boom. You think Endeavor's dead? Like, what the fuck? No, he's like in the middle of a fight. What happens in the next chapter?
That's such a dick thing. That's such a dick thing to do, honestly. Oh, man.
Yeah, that's all good.
Oh, man. Perfect. I will, by the way, if we're talking about difference between release times, I am a little bit annoyed that the simuldub period has ended for the My Hero Academia anime, because we were caught up, and Nicole and I were watching it, like week by week, and then we're like, where's the new fucking episode? And it's like, oh, it's not coming out for another 2 weeks because the simuldub is done. So now there's just going to be a 2-week delay. It's like, well, what the fuck? Anyway. All right, let's move on then to Food Wars Shokugeki no Soma. 268, Soma and Megami's Hot Springs Case Files, File 04, Megami Tadokoro, the Totsuki Institute's 10th seed. Just wait until we get to the next one, and I run out of breath just reading the title of the fucking series. So, last time, the American otaku guy, I don't even know if does this guy's name get said in any of these chapters, by the way?
I don't think so. I'm hoping we never get his name, and the series ends, and he's just always American Hat Guy. Oh, fuck, dude, he's Bandit Keith. I just realized it's Bandit Keith in the cooking world.
He fucking does look like Bandit Keith.
If he just puts an American flag bandana on, it's perfect.
Grows 5 o'clock shadow and puts on sunglasses, and he'll basically be Bandit Keith. So the guy is basically being confronted in a flashback in the American South near the Mexican border by some gangster. And he's like, so yeah, the whole family rides on the outcome of this banquet, and that's why I'm looking for a cuisinier noir. I can't speak no French, but just so we're clear, if I see the slightest hint of dissatisfaction in my guest's faces to eat your food, you die on the spot. The guy's like, let's get one thing straight. I don't know if I can do a Bandit Keith voice. Fuck it, he's Surfer Dude again. He basically says, like, I'm the king of the second I walk into the kitchen, the king of that banquet stops being the sponsor. From that moment on, the chef is a command, and that's me. The sponsor, the guests, everyone becomes a slave, bound before the greatness of the dishes the king bestows upon them. Do you want me to teach you how grave the crime of disrespecting the king is? He's got like a knife up the guy's throat, and it's like, well, I do still have a gun pointed at your chin. Are you sure you want to do that? So basically, it's like, I have no fear even in this dangerous scenario. Check out this title page where I show off my crotch while wearing a king's robe over my t-shirt and jeans. It's a weird image.
I mean, I just played Persona 5 recently, which starts with a dude in like a king's cloak and cap, but he wears nothing but a bright pink thong, so I'll take anything over that at this point.
This guy's got a weird mix of aesthetics going on with him. Like, he, spouts these random, like, otaku phrases, but he also calls himself the king, but he's also super American. It's just a little weird. So, last chapter, catching up to the present, Megami had brought up, hey, I don't think that you understand what, hospitality is all about. And the guy's like, how dare you talk back to me? Which causes Megami to kind of get a little nervous again. Not, backing down as much as she usually does. She's kind of like, oh, sorry, as opposed to like, ooh, like she normally does. So the female head of the establishment that they're in warns him, like, oh, he's worked for really scary people like the mafia and the yakuza, so you shouldn't get him angry. Don't get involved in this. We'll just accept the consequences, and you shouldn't get involved too. And the guy's like, yeah, listen to her. Let's see here. He then, reiterates like, if the way that I'm going about this, losing to me, all the people who've lost to me so far, losing to me damaged their pride. They just packed up shop and disappeared and took their cooking equipment with them. I guess instead of live under his direction over what they could serve, I guess. But he's just like, but whatever. I'll just look for even more places to go for. So Megami is like, I'm going to do some kind of like clothing adjustments to prepare to cook, and she starts washing her hands. She doesn't even like declare what she's doing yet. So eventually the guy says, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Well, I'm going to cook something for you, if you don't mind." And I feel like this inn has very special flavor you don't find anywhere else, and I'd like for you to actually try it. And so I was like, "Oh, are you challenging me, little miss? Me, the cuisinier noir called Monarch?" He still doesn't say his name. I'm getting a little frustrated with this. This is the violent situation all over again. It's like, what is your name? I can't tell if you're even a woman or a man. At least this guy's like, I am the king. He's like, oh, you're a guy. Okay. As if I couldn't tell from his massive chin.
It should be those biceps and pecs. Those are what clearly should give it away.
So Soma offers to help out Megami, and she's like, no, I'll be fine. Which I do like that detail, because Soma's always helping out Megami, and she's like, no, I got this. So he goes out to wait for this, and basically says, you'll be my slaves if you lose, blah, blah, blah. Megami was like, yeah, okay. The head chef at this point is like, no, you can't do this. And Megami says, if the worst happens and I can't win, well, we're all stuck doing what he says for a long time, aren't we? Just kind of like, oh, well. But then she says, even if that does happen, please don't close the inn. Even if disaster strikes and things aren't going how you'd like, you need to keep your doors open no matter what. Because if you close down, then all the customers who love this inn will be sad. It's like, aw, that's nice. Then she, we get few brief little like, oh yeah, Megami's actually really good moments. Like the chef's like, just how good is this girl? You aren't even helping her. And someone's like, she'll be fine. She said that she would be fine. She's chopping up vegetables really, really quickly, peeling stuff really, really quickly and precisely.
Well, I love the way they show it, because it's just a panel of her like getting there, and then she walks away with this big happy grin on her face, and it's literally just the two panels back to back. So you only see like a second, and then they're just like, how the fuck did she peel and slice all of those? Like, I had to assume she's literally just like a food processor over there. Like, she gets over there, and then she just walks away.
So everyone's like, where did she get such knife skills? And someone says, well, she's one of the top 10 chefs at Totsuki Institute. I was like, oh! Monarch guy is like, what does that little girl think she can do? Even the crime lords of the underworld bow before me. I'm the king of the kitchen, and my dishes rule all who sit before them. What does one kid think she can teach me about cooking? Megami comes in after a bit, and she has the meal for him. They exchange some banter, basically, but all that she is like, here, I'm going to present your meal. And he's like, whoa! But we don't get to see it in very typical Food Wars fashion. So I'm pretty happy with how this is playing out so far. I'm glad that we're getting this whole thing where it's like, okay, it's Megami's time to get a little bit of a shine, and Soma's not helping her for the first time in like ever. Like, even in times when she would cook on her own, there would always be like, I have to think of what Soma would do and be inspired by him and stuff. And it's just like, no, I got this. Confidence is a good look on Megami.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be super enjoyable. It'll be nice to see her presumably have a big victory over somebody, as we kind of talked about last week, which she hasn't really had one in quite some time. So, pluses there. I don't really have much to say on this chapter, honestly. Otherwise, there's not really that much content to it.
I'm sure you'll have plenty to say then about Seiji Tanaka, Chris.
No, Nick, you have to do its full title.
Okay. Seiji Tanaka, Secretary to the Managing President, General Time Industries. File 1, Seiji Tanaka. By Keiji Yamatsuka. Jumpstart. So, I didn't actually know we were getting a jumpstart. It feels like it hasn't been very long since the last couple of jumpstarts that we got. I don't know.
We're also getting one next week, I believe. And
there's Alice and Taiyo, and there's one that apparently Kubo is getting a new series coming out soon.
Where you draw dick girls.
I haven't seen anything about it. I just know that it's some sort of like romantic comedy series.
There's an image of it, and them girls stick, Nick.
Okay.
Kubo, I guess, is just like, I'm all about them peaches now.
Does this make you think of peaches? Does it? How about this one? Anyway, our main character is not actually Seiji Tanaka, or it might be. Anyway, but this guy named Nagato Tokioka, who is this tremendous slacker, he does not really seem to care where his life is going at all. He just spends all of his time slacking off. All of a sudden, Seiji appears in, like, I don't know what that's supposed to be. It's almost like an elevator, which is a time machine, and he steps out of it and he's like, I am from 20 years in the future. Your life is being targeted. It's basically the plot of the Terminator. Let's be real. The only thing that I have to say, and this is probably the highlight of this chapter, is that Seiji explains all of this stuff to Tokioka, and he's like, worry not, I am here, and I will protect you, President Tokioka, even if it costs me my life. You are my number one priority, and I swear and it just cuts over to him being escorted away by the police, because Tokioka goes like, yeah, I'm calling the cops. Just off panel. And then he's like, anyway, back to doing nothing. But we see bits of him, trying to, do stuff. He gets attacked by an assassin. Seiji shows up and drives him off. And then Tokyo gets this whole situation explained to him, which is like, in the future, when time travel is discovered, you find very marketable, but let's be real, small-minded ways of utilizing it in order to make a massive profit. But there are those who took over the company and want to take credit for your discovery, so they are sending assassins back to kill you. It's very strange. Meanwhile, the next day, he goes around and he's helping people. He's just slacking off with people, playing a game with the soccer club, going to the arcade with a bunch of nerds who want to study for entrance exams, and he has no direction in his life. And then Seiji's just kind of following him around doing nothing. And he's like, I don't know. Am I really supposed to be the president of a massive successful company? I don't really have aspirations like these people. So how the hell am I supposed to make that happen? And then the assassin shows up again, and Seiji ends up fighting him. And he's like, he has the ability to do that. I believe in him. He's the type to believe. He puts other people's cares ahead of his own. And as the secretary, I know the man better than anyone. Take my word for it. And then he beats the guy. And so Takoka's like, all right, I'll make this happen. And that's the end of the chapter. It's a weird thing.
The manga lost me on the name. I was like, this name's too long. I'm gone.
Seiji Tanaka.
Well, because I think the first...
Secretary to the Managing President, General Time Industries.
Hold on. I want to see if I can find the last... Continue on, because talking about it. I want to see if I can find last week's issue for it.
There are some funny parts to it, which I think are the best parts. But I think that it's kind of a weird...
Yeah,
Be
so
the CEO.
they gave the chapter title for it in Japanese last time first, so it was Sokujikan Jugo Gaisha Daishio Toshiramaku Saiko Sojoko Saishu Tanaka Seiji. And you're just like, fuck this! This is too much! I don't have time for this shit! I need my title series short. Dr. Stone. 2 syllables.
3 syllables.
Like, no. If you do it as Doctor's DR, it's like a 1 syllable thing then.
Der Stone.
Der Stone, yeah.
It's like it's German then. Der Stone.
Der Stono.
Now it's 3 syllables again. I had an extra one to the one I took out. I don't really care very much for this premise, honestly. I think largely because Seiji's a really boring character because he's very robotic. He's very kind of Ida-esque from My Hero, both in terms of like the haircut and the jerky movements and the very serious tone and stuff. But he's a lot less complex of a character. And it seems like that's just kind of the thing is like we're going to start off with this very bizarre character premise. And it's hard to kind of connect with everything because, like, okay, there's this guy who's, like, slacking off all the time, but he's going to end up saving the world, and that's the irony of it. But, I don't know, there's nothing really that kind of... It's like, he's a nice guy, but who cares? It's also, like, not like one of those things where it's like, you will save the world one day. It's like, you will make a lot of money. Okay. Does it matter, though, if he actually comes up with these ideas? If they're just going to take credit for them and stuff? You will improve the world. Well, yeah, but they're going to do what he would have done. They're just going to kill him. So, whatever. It seems very low stakes to me in terms of the way that it was explained. The best parts that I can say for it was like there were parts that did definitely make me laugh. I do really like the part where, it's like, I am an emissary from the future sent to guard your life. And he's like, well, there's a strange guy in my bedroom. I'm calling the police. But that's about it. All right, so it's time for Durstono.
It's time to get Durstoned! Shit, that's too many syllables. It's time to get Durstone! You gotta put the energy at the end, just by screaming.
It's time to get Durst!
Durst. I'm abridging every Shonen Jump title into basically emojis and acronyms, so...
All right.
Let's talk about Op this week. Otherwise, no Op this week. Damn it. All right. Well, we'll talk about a little of
Dr. Stone. Z equals 63. Because the Viz version says Z equals 62 on the tile page for some reason. Mistake.
Nick,
Z equals 63.
If you send it in and they have to fix it, I think they send you a free pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
I don't know.
They don't do that. It's not a policy, but
Jeff
if you push for it hard enough.
Jeff said that he reported my insane math catch, and I haven't gotten anything for that. So
somewhere out there, Jeff just opened a pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. He's like, "Fuck Nick." This is the gacha game of real life.
He like wakes up each day and he's just like, "Where's my login bonus?
Where's my? I should be getting extra.
Where's the money I get for logging in each day?
How am I supposed to get more packs?" They're like, "Jeff, that's what your job is." But you're supposed to use that for food and like shelter. He's like, "But there's sweet anime girl cards out there."
Does the house have a bikini?
I hope Jeff listens to this. He probably won't, but I really hope he does.
Follow definitely Jeff on Twitter. All right, last time. Senku and the villagers tried to prevent fucking... Not Hyoga, that's the guy's name. Homura. Tried to prevent Homura from going after the cell phone team. Senku pinned her down, but he's Senku, so he has literally no upper or lower body strength whatsoever. So she just kind of immediately threw him off and scampered away. But he managed to actually get something on her so that they could track her. Specifically, the blue jewel from before that he got crunched up into powder form. So she's leaving a trail, and they're able to follow it with a black light that he made. And there's, little explanations like how to make your own black light with the right materials. And then you can make a purple light bulb, blah, blah, blah. So they start pursuing after Homura, following her trail. And Kohaku and Senku have a little heart-to-heart conversation, which I really like. Because Kohaku points out, hey, she moves in strange ways. And Senku says, yeah, she's a gymnast. And Kohaku says, so it might be impossible for us to actually capture her without harming her. But if I were to quit using the back of my blade, I could lop off her head and be done with it. Are you okay with that? Would you be okay with me killing her? And Senku looks at her for a second and he says, have you ever killed a person? We get some flashbacks to the moments in the series where she's, kind of talked a big game, basically, saying like, oh, you can talk when you're in hell. Should I kill him? And then she, just kind of gets very serious. And it goes, no! She's like quirking her eyebrows, like, what kind of person do you think I am? No. But she says, like, so to make sure in the moment that, I would hesitate because of that, weakness that I have, in order to stifle that hesitation, I need to hear, some reassurance from you. That's a bizarre little kind of moment of trust and vulnerability shared between them that I really like. But Senku just says, like, well, we probably will. I think if we get this to go correctly, you won't even need to use your weapon at all. Remember how the whole village slaved away on this? What do you think we're hauling this gigantic box out here for anyway? It's the greatest weapon of modern times, information warfare. The cell phone team gets a incoming call, just a little ring. And Magma and Chrome are just like, what the hell's going on? Chrome's like, oh, it must be a call from Senku. And Genemi is like, stop it. Hold on now. If he's calling us now, then it can only mean one thing, which is that Homura must have spotted us and she's in pursuit. And if we start using the receiver, she'll figure out that this is a phone. So we must feign ignorance and press on. Back with Senku's team, he kind of summarizes to everyone his idea, which is like, hey, right now we've got, like 2 simultaneous games of tag going on. We're chasing after the person chasing after the cell phone team. So what we could do, though, is we could use radio waves to communicate with each other. So instead, we would be surrounding her on both sides. And they're like, oh, that's a good idea. But, of course, they would have to effectively communicate. And the idea that you're given during all of this is that, well, maybe they're not actually effectively communicating with each other. Because, Gen said not to answer the phone before. Homura realizes during dawn, as the pursuit continues, that because of the way the light is refracted through the atmosphere, it's like, there's this stuff on me that is allowing them to track me. And all of a sudden, the trail runs cold as a result of that because she manages to, get rid of the tracking powder. So, Senku, meanwhile, they're getting calls, and he realizes that Gen is communicating with them with Morse code, and he's like, it's clever of them. It's he can't communicate with us without talking, so he's communicating like we used to, basically like with text messages, and of course everyone's like, what the fuck is he talking about?
He's like, Senku, what did he just Morse code you? He texted me an eggplant and said, you up?
Netflix and chill. Let's see here. So Senku basically responds by using Morse code in response, and Homura catches up with Gen's group and sees Gen holding up the cell phone, and they're moving it around, and he's like, oh, dang, no signal. Why don't you stick the unit up above the treetops here, Chrome? And Chrome's like, okay. And Homura's like, oh, they've got communications tech? Oh, damn it. after Chrome puts the receiver up in the treetop, she's like, all right, I've got to go up there and confirm it, and maybe I'll even have the opportunity to destroy it before they can actually use it. This might be my only chance to do something. And then she gets all the way up to the treetops and realizes that there is no receiver up at the top of the tree. It's just a bunch of fucking sticks tied together to look like an antenna. And she realizes, oh,
God damn it.
Getting used sleight of hand to trick me. And fucking Kinro and Magma chop the tree down immediately while she's on top of it. It looks like they had been at work on it before because most of it's already, chopped away. But then all of a sudden, and she starts falling. And she can't land effectively because she's falling backwards through the air. As she falls, she says, "Goodbye, my Hyoga." So, okay. Well, that clears up the nature of their relationship there. Or at least one end of it. But Gohaku catches her as she falls through the air in a full Nelson, holds her effectively, and she's like, "Ha! It doesn't matter if you're really fast and can evade me normally. I knew the right place and I knew the right timing, and because of that, you're in our hands now." And that's it. They've basically overcome that first obstacle to the plan, capture Homura and tie her up. And Seku's like, all right, this is how the Science Kingdom wages information warfare. And the ultimate weapon for info warfare, the cell phone, has finally arrived at Tsukasa's empire. There we go.
Interesting chapter. It's a kind of innovative way to beat her. I like it. It's all part of trickery. It is good to show that, like, again, it's not just Senku is the only smart person on this team. It's nice to show that, like, Gen is, like, an equally as insidious kind of, like, tactical genius on these moves. So it was a cool move there to kind of work those together. I like that a lot.
Yeah. You can't put that plan together without someone on each side to figure it out. So.
Yep. Really dug it.
I'm sure that things aren't going to go exactly as Senku had planned from all of this. The situation's probably going to be different than they had expected, but yeah.
All right, let's move on to We Never Learned, question 68. At the festival's climax, each frantically strives for X.
Which, by the way, is not the festival's climax because the fireworks show hasn't happened yet in this chapter. So.
It's also kind of a sexy title. I don't know why. I don't know.
Because of climax?
Then each frantically strives for X. Because you can just put, like, anything in X. It's kind of sexy. Like, each frantically strives for sandwiches. And think of dirty sandwiches, like a dirty BLT. Well, I guess a dirty BLT just sounds like you dropped a BLT on the floor. But think of, like, a sexy thing to be in there. And it fits. Anyway, I don't have time to go into this whole bit, Nick. We got a lot to talk about still. So last chapter, Uega swooped in his Meowpolian outfit. And Fumino took it as an opportunity to take the initiative, use him as the prince, kiss him. Although she doesn't realize she doesn't know who it is on the inside. Though she has an idea, as we find out.
She thought that she knew who it was.
So Uega runs because he's super nervous about all this, and everyone's like, "Oh God!" Like the helpers like, "Stop him! Get him!" But Fumino kind of interrupts by continuing to play and basically closing it out by being like, "Oh, your kisses awakened me, and for now, once again, peace reigns over the land." And
this is the way the Sleeping Beauty went.
It's like, I don't think this goes on, whatever. But she basically ends the play. Everyone thinks it's super beautiful. They talk about how it really got to her, and then they notice that there's like an ad for super cheap udon there as well. So a bunch of people are going to storm over to the udon section. Uega's getting out of his costume, and he starts contemplating what we kind of discussed last week. He's like, does it count as a kiss? I mean, it was on the helmet, but is it still a kiss? And he gets out of the costume. The two teachers actually like, "Oh, hey, there's the Meowpolian costume. Thanks. So let's get this away." And then he runs.
This guy's going to run out of excuses for it wasn't a real kiss eventually. By the way,
yeah,
this is like his third time that this has happened. At least second. I can't remember.
It's been the third one. Now there's the one where he accidentally fell into Ogata.
Right.
And then there was the one where Ogata kissed him on like the forehead, I think. There was like the one on the stairs where it looked like she was going to kiss him.
Right. It just got close.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think if there's anyone else he's accidentally kissed or not. Did he ever have one with Takamoto? I don't think so.
Like I said, I can't really remember.
Yeah. Anyways, So he runs into I forget what they call themselves, but I think it's like the Thorny Briars Club or something like that. Like
Right.
the group of super awesome Fumino supporters. And they're just like, Furuha or Yuego, where have you been all this time? This is ridiculous. And he's like, oh, well, about that weird cat costume. Like, oh, yes, the mysterious cat prince. If you find out who it is, we're going to murder him. We're going to tear him from limb to limb. How dare he
ruined our plan!
How dare he defile Princess Farashi's precious lips? Yumega's just like, I'm going to take this to my grave. I'm going to repress this and just never speak of it again. But he says, he's like, oh, I guess that means Furuhashi didn't know either. And we covered Furuhashi, who is kind of singing out. She's enjoying a drink, doing the classic.
She's Donald Trumping it.
Yeah. And she sees Komi-san go by, and she's like, oh, hey, thanks for coming and saving me back there. And Ashui's just like, what are you talking about? I like if it's just like, oh, she's pretending not to know, but I'm on to her game. And she recognizes her guitar case from when she saw it on Meowpolian. And she's like, oh, you saw that I was in trouble and you came to my rescue. You even found a prince costume. I was so moved. And, I'm sorry if I threw you off there by just jumping into it, but it's the only way I can think of getting away from all those guys who were trying to jump all over me. So, it was just a kiss to a costume. Doesn't mean anything. And I just like, Ashley's just like, wasn't me. It's just like, fuck. Like, first she's just like, what? And she explains, like, oh, well, during that, I was actually out with some old teachers, and they were getting me some food and stuff like that. And she's like, but where's your guitar? She's like, oh, I left it somewhere. And that's when Fumito realizes, and there's just this page of her eyes going huge. It's not, her eyes are going in two different, like, patterns of insanity. And she's very upset because she's like, then who was my first kiss? Who was it?
You just said it didn't count.
But now it does, because it wasn't fucking Ashwin. She doesn't know who it was.
Now it's not a hot lesbian kiss, so now it does count.
We cut over to the in-depth lecture about why the Holy Roman Empire fell. And contrary to what the two teachers expected, it's stupidly popular because, of course, it is. Kirisu is now hot. The teachers are all super excited because she was super popular in her magical girl outfit and everything like that. So there's actually the end of that scene. It almost felt weird to have like brought it up at all, but I guess they wanted to note that the lecture was a success. Like they were like, need to tie off that subplot.
Pretty much.
We go back to the Udon Shack, and there's a crazy huge crowd because of the note that was left behind, maybe having a connection to the Prince character. And it just basically got a huge amount of support there. We cut away later. The two of them are exhausted. They haven't actually finished selling all of their fucking udon left either. I forget how many.
That's what happens when you have to sell 1,000 bowls of it.
Yeah, they do have. Hold on, my Zoom's not working on here. Come on. There we go. I think they had 1,000, and she says they've sold 614. So they're not even like 3/4 of the way done selling this fucking udon. So
not even 2/3 through. No.
Yeah. So they're going through, and he's talking about like, okay, well maybe we could offer more, needs by offering diverse toppings and things like that. And they kind of have a back and forth. And what's kind of sweet is Ogata has a slide. She's like, if you and I ran a restaurant together, I think it might be a real success. And I love it because Yuega's just like, she doesn't understand what she's doing, but she's basically proposing to me. She's just like, she doesn't recognize what she's saying.
We should run a mom and pop store together. That, do you know what moms and pops are?
Usually moms and pops, like you know what? It's fine. You're adorable. But I like it because she's like, she doesn't realize he's getting a little all self-conscious. She has a note where she's like, well, are these noodles too firm? And they basically realize, I don't know how this happens because
she tries to sample from his bowl when he makes a note about the noodles.
Yeah, so I guess, but it's weird because they get into like the fox and, or not the Fox and the Hound.
Oh, wow. That movie's way different than I remember. It wasn't even about like, cross species and friendship and the problems with racist allegories and stuff. It was actually like a sexual awakening.
Lady and the Tramp, that's it. Man, Fox and the Hound, that's a sad
First
movie,
ever homosexual representation.
You know, I could trace a lot of my depression back to the fact that Fox and my Hound was the Disney movie I watched all the time as a kid, I think.
Makes a lot of sense. And then they don't become friends again.
Yeah. I really should take that to a therapist at some point. But like they have the Fox and the Hound, the Lady and the Tramp moment. The Disney can only have one movie where the noun and the noun are together. They can't do more than one of them. And it snaps back and they both blush.
So the Prince and the Pauper.
I'm like, fuck it. You know, honestly, I'm not even comfortable with the Black Cauldron because if you take the prepositions out, it's the same thing.
The Black and the Cauldron.
Now that's a porno. They have. It's a great visual to think of. It snaps back. They have their blushing moment. Not the same kid as usual. A different kid.
This one's a girl.
Yeah, this one goes by. It's like, lovers, lovers. And Yuiga starts kind of coughing.
Why do you know that word, girl?
But then Yuiga grabs onto Ogata's shoulders and he starts screaming out, lovers, lovers, over again. So we presume that Yuiga has had some kind of realization about something, that perhaps a way to sell off the remaining udon.
That sounds like it, but I have no fucking clue how the hell that connects to anything.
Well, what he could maybe realize is tie in the rest of the udon as part of the whole like mythology of this event, that if you like are holding hands when the fireworks go off, you do it. So he's like, if you're sharing this udon, it increases
share
your
a bowl
chance,
of udon with the girl you want to be in it with. Yeah, okay. I like that explanation.
So something like that, and that's how the chapter ends. There's a bunch of like strangers who are just like, did they downgrade for being engaged?
I do like that. Everyone was just like, "Oh, look at how they're going to start their own shop together. We should have sex."
Well, look how they downgrade. They were like, "Oh, those two proposing together," and they're like, "Lovers, just lovers." Like, did they downgrade? Which can
no.
And it's like a hallway, so people are walking around. So these are people who have stopped to listen into this conversation who are confused.
Intruding on privacy. Come on, guys.
I know, really. It's very rude of them. And that's We Never Learn this week.
Yeah, there's some interesting little bits. It's honestly, I think it was just kind of a breather moment before the finale in comparison to all the other chapters we've had this arc. But I do like some of the stuff that we got in this. I do actually really like, just the kind of actual bonding going on between Rizu and Yuiga. And also, it seems like whenever Rizu and Yuiga have like these kind of moments where they're like teased as being the couple, it's kind of like they have to like work overtime to overcome the popularity of Uruka and Asumi and Kirisu all being much more popular targets for the shipping. And even for Fumino, because Fumino's got her whole like club that helps them out. Sekijo, by the way, has been slacking off this entire arc. Where the hell has she been? She hasn't even like done anything like her set for her class or project or whatever. Is she just like hiding around the corner, waiting for the fireworks festival so that she can strike when the moment is ripe?
Hopefully. Free pizza.
Speaking of which, we know for certain that the next chapter is going to be the finale of this arc. So, I want to reiterate that I did make the amendment on that pizza bet that if Ogata and Sekijo are specifically touching when the fireworks go off, thus fulfilling the urban legend, then I will give Chris his free pizza, because that is basically a canonical hint saying that they will end up together. So those are the terms. Fireworks go off, Ogata and Sekijo touching, free pizza.
Pizza, pizza, pizza. Now
Chris is like, all right, I want an extra large with 3 of every ingredient.
Yeah, 3 of every ingredient. I want 3 flour. I want 3 cheese. 3 sauce.
I meant to say like 3 layers of each top.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. I might have to order pizza after this now. Fuck. Oh, there's no place that's gonna deliver this late. Fuck my life. I could order Papa John's if I really hate myself.
It's been a nice, change of pace for We Never Learn, though, getting an actual like sequence of events that go together across multiple chapters. It's nice to have these kind of short. Yeah, it's nice to have an arc that's like this length as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like something like just over a month long. It's like, okay, that was nice, and then we'll get to go on to something else. It's kind of refreshing with that, and also the hot springs case that Soma Megami have been doing.
I totally agree.
All right. So, from there, let's move on to The Promised Neverland, Chapter 92, Fire Away! So, it turns out I was wrong, it seems, about the whole plan to attack Luvis, which was literally just like, let's just shoot him with a bunch of bullets. That is literally the extent of the plan. It's kind of disappointing. Unless there's some sort of twist that happens after, spoilers, Emma has been stabbed through the stomach. This was just their plan, just shoot him and hope for the best. Adam showed up at the end of the last chapter, throwing buildings or chunks of buildings at Luvis. Violet is there as well, giving him instructions like, punch him! And he, like, Hulk punches him. Luvis goes fucking flying after he gets hit by this guy. It's actually very satisfying to see, because he's like, what the fuck just happened?
It's like, what the fuck? I'm supposed to be beating up on kids. I'm supposed to be the, like, physical superior in every way.
This is bullshit! But my +1 strength!
I'm supposed to have an AC way too high for these kids to hit.
So, everyone's like, shoot him! And it was like, well, this isn't going so great. I should run around trying to attack them. He tries to go after, he just tries to run around and dodge and stuff. Adam kind of throws a monkey wrench in his plans because he's not, shooting guns. He's just picking up entire rooms and throwing them at Luvis. And he's like, this is pretty bad. I'm not, as young as I used to be. My regeneration isn't so great, and aging kind of sucks. But, all right. And he remembers back during the actual war, before the promise was made, how his fights would go. And he's like, it's been a while since I've moved so much, and perhaps I'm paying now for my recklessness in the past. Turns out, in the past, Luvis was fucking jacked. It had, like, the freaking Dorito shape to his body. It was freaking, like, 12-inch waist and 60-inch shoulders or something.
These demons and their unrealistic proportions. Young demons are not going to know that that's not a reality they can achieve. They're chasing these disgusting figures. Nick, I think we need a more realistic, body-sensitive demon to relate behind. Let's go back to Bayon. How's he doing? Just a bullet-ridden corpse. I'm like, there we go. That's what young demons could get to, all right? We need to put equal, fucking equal opportunity. That's not the right phrase, but you know what I'm getting at. All body types.
Toxic demon masculinity? I don't know. So, yeah. But Luvis is like, still, I'm gonna fucking kill these kids. I'm not going to be defeated. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to hold out until my senses return, and I'm going to defend myself. Because Emma is thinking at the same time, if this strategy doesn't work, we're gonna fucking die. And they just keep shooting him, like just as. So it's good to know that Promised Neverland can come up with all these different schemes and hidden plans and stuff. But when it comes down to boss fights, it's just a fucking World of Warcraft raid. So Luvis goes after Violet. Emma tries to use a flash bomb, and he's like, nope, cape, block it. You can't, that's not going to work again. Ray shoots him. Adam found a column somewhere and is throwing that too. Guns, throwing stuff, guns, throwing stuff. Luvis, like, kicks Adam into a wall, and was like, oh god! It rocks the building that the old man's on and almost topples him off of the roof. Ray's like, shoot him more, you idiots! And while everyone is distracted, I guess, or I don't think everyone was distracted, I think Luvis just finally gets his senses back and uses his, like, flash step ability that he used before all of this started to get behind Emma and stabs her right through the stomach. And he's like, you ran out of time. And Ray yells, Emma!
Be great. He's like, me! I mean, wait, Emma's the one in danger!
What's a Gray? I mean, I'm
He looks around, he waits for people to get excited. He's like, oh, I guess I was in danger too, or whatever.
Oh, I guess I could have stabbed you guys too, but it wasn't me! Yay!
Oh, boy. I think she's going to be fine, Nick.
I'm sure she's going to be fine.
I think she's going to be fine. But hey, at least Lubis is...
That second claw didn't even hit her. It went through her jacket and not her stomach.
I think at least Lubis is going down with the fight, though.
Yeah.
So, cool for him.
Still just kind of disappointed that they built up this big confrontation with Lubis, and then their big plan was just like, shoot him a lot.
Well, you need a lot of bullets to take him down. You need more DACA, and that's the only way they can win.
Shoot the fucking head. All right,
let's talk about a new series. I guess we'll be discussing because Hero's back, everybody. I know it's been 4 months, if even that, since Fairy Tail ended.
You've waited so long, and finally, the bated breath that you held for about 10 seconds can finally be released.
This fucker does not stop. I swear they probably they probably literally took a hammer and nails and nailed him into a chair at a beach, and were like, rest for a bit, and you're just like, yeah.
So many new ideas. I didn't have to focus on 5 different Fairy Tail spin-off series, so I had all this time to do research while I was staring at the ocean.
So, let's talk about Eden Zero, Chapter 1, To Sky Where Cherry Blossoms Blow. So, the chapter opens up with our protagonist, Shiki, as a young boy surrounded by the robots that we come to find out are his family. And he sees a shooting star. He's like, oh, that star is moving. And the one older robot, or I guess they're not really older. I don't know if robots have an age, but the one taller robot, I'll say.
He's dead before the present of the series, so he might very well be older.
Yeah, but he also has, I don't know if they ever give him a name specifically.
Yeah, they do.
Do they?
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, it's a long chapter, so it'll take me a while.
We'll get to it at some point. That robot says, you know what that is? That's
Great
a dragon.
Demon King. Whatever.
That's a title.
The Great Demon King.
That's a title, not a name. Fuck you.
Call him Grandpa.
The other robot, Michael, who we know is his name, says, no, that's just a comment. And he's like, I fooled you. But they talk about how there's a lot of things in life that you'll never know unless you see it up close. So maybe it is a dragon. You're just going to have to go and see it. And the important thing is to have a friend who will be there along the way with you, because a friend who will shed tears for you, you'd better treasure that friend for your whole life. And Shiki says, you mean Michael? And the robot's like, but I don't shed tears. Machines have no hearts. I'm like, a little dark. All right, fair enough.
Well, it's a foreshadowing of things to come,
yes.
But also it's contradicted.
Yes, so. Because he basically says, oh no, that's something everyone has. Everyone has a heart. We get our big cover page, which presumably shows us a lot of the important characters in this.
Including Plu, again.
It's worth noting, Plu was on the cover page of Fairy Tail's opening cover spread as well, and didn't end up being an actually important character in the grand scheme of things. But Happy's in this, straight up Happy. They actually...
It's just Happy. His name is Happy. They call it... He's one of the three most important characters in this first chapter, and he is Happy.
And I don't remember if they give him wings or not, though.
I don't...
I know he says I, so he's got that going for him. But...
He's a little bit different than Fairy Tail Happy. Much less unbearable, honestly.
Uh-huh. And we see what presumably is going to be our other side cast of characters all throughout this.
Including not Urza and not Wendy.
Yep. Well, not Wendy's different because she's older and can have actual tits that I guess he can then show off.
Because Wendy was never shown with tits.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. He doesn't have to wait for the future Wendy to show up at any point or anything like that. So the chapter opens, and we see Rebecca, who is, I guess, our, Lucy / Ellie equivalent in this. She's more akin to Lucy because she basically opens the chapter the same way Lucy did, which is like, she's our quote-unquote protagonist until she can meet the mysterious hero, and then he's the actual protagonist.
I will give a little bit of credit, because I was kind of joking to myself, like, oh, look, it's Lucy, but really, she actually more dresses like Lucy than actually looks like her. Her like actual appearance with her hair and her eyes actually reminds me a little bit more of Mira Jane. But it's a hero series. He's been doing this for a long time, and he's made a lot of characters in every series. There's going to be some that look like each other. So
yeah, I mean, the main character himself, many people have already kind of hit on. He just looks like a cross between Natsu with Gray's hairstyle. Like, you can get to it. It's fine.
And when he has long hair, he looks like a Geo. Like,
so Rebecca is heading to the Grand Bell Kingdom, which is a kingdom of all robots that's basically a deserted theme park. And the reason she's going to it is because she's apparently like a YouTuber, like this universe equivalent of a YouTuber, and she wants to get more subscribers to her Ao Neko channel, the Blue Cat channel. So it's named after Happy. I guess they're like a YouTuber duo or whatever. And he even makes a comment, like, Happy makes a comment, like, oh, you hiked up your skirt and everything for this. It's like,
I do actually love that comment. That's like, this, honestly, this was the first moment where I was like, I think that I might like this Happy more than the other one already.
So she's like, she goes up to the guard and is like, oh, yeah, I'm a guest here. And he's like, you're our first guest in 100 years. And everyone starts, like, clamoring. It's like a Disneyland, essentially, opening for one guest. Like, we have a guest. Hurry, open the shops. Open everything. And they open this big, celebration. They're, like, walking down the aisle. And we find out that Grand Bell is essentially, like it's Westworld, basically. They're like, you can do whatever you want here. We have robots set up to kind of create whatever fantasy you want to live out. Go for it. You're our guest here and everything like that. And they're like, what is your dream? And she's like, I want to get 1 million subscribers to my channel. So Nick,
like, okay,
Nick, take it down. This character has a motivation, at least.
That's true. It's a shallow motivation.
It's a shallow motivation that feels really easy to get to, but she does have a goal. So in 7 years from now, when Weekly Manga Recap, we're in our 40s almost. We're still doing this.
I have to give a little bit of credit. I mean, I actually came out of this chapter kind of liking her. She doesn't stand out an incredible amount, but there are like hints of little things. There's a little bit of an airheadedness to her, but she's like a good person. And she has that bizarre side of ambition to her.
So she says, I want to be, get 1 million subscribers, and she's, even trying to do her recording. She's like, oh, can you start again when you say this is Grand Bell? It wasn't recording. I guess she also wears cat ears when she records.
You gotta have a gimmick.
Gotta do it. And they go to a bar, and they see, like, oh, hey, why don't we do something cool like this? It's a quest to go beat up monsters. She's like, that would make a perfect video. And the first robot that we see them fight against is like a giant giraffe cat thing. I don't know what to call it. It's a giant robot cat with a huge upstretched neck that's just like, ah. She's like, oh, but now that I look at it, it's a kitty. It's so cute. And then it gets crushed right in front of her as we reintroduce ourselves to the protagonist of the series, Shiki, who crashes down on it as she just screams, kitty!
Actually, come to think of it, a large part of why I liked her might be because she's a tremendous cat lover.
She sees Shiki, who has this very intense glare, and she's just, apologizing over and over again. And he just throws up and he's like, human? Are you human? And he's just like grabbing her face. And then, of course, it's here. So he starts grabbing her tits. And she's like, what's wrong with you? You never seen anything like that? And he's like, oh, well, there aren't any humans in this kingdom than just me. Let me get a joke about him looking up her skirt. And he's like, so you're one of those women I've heard so much about. And I'm like, there's clearly female robots. I don't know whatever. He has a whole thing there where he's talking about the cat and, what are you guys doing? He, extends his hand like after this intense moment.
Friend?
Like, yeah, you be friend. And she's like, no, you.
This only part of manga where me like Tarzan for some reason.
And she's like, no, because you keep fucking feeling me up and looking at my skirt. You're a weird person. So, no, I'm not going to be your friend. And he keeps chasing after her because he's like, no, my grandpa told me to make lots of friends. She goes back to the bar and she's complaining because she's just like, never mind that. I found a human boy, a real human here. You said there were only machines. And they're like, oh, you must mean Shiki. And Shiki basically explains that he knows everyone in the town because they're all his friends. And he fixes them. He's the one human here, and he does everything he can to kind of keep them up and going. And they all have a big party. They give her like a fancy dress. They share the big soft drink. Happy dances with a tiny robot dog thing.
Yeah,
I feel like should be the new mascot of the series, but it's not. I don't know. And then there's like a mischievous like Robin Hood robot outside. I don't know. It has like the hat and the quiver of arrows, so I assume that's what his role is. Spies in on the scene and has to go report to the evil king robot. And we know he's evil because he's drawn in shadows and has a bunch of cables hooked up.
Well, and he also slouches in his chair. That's how you know he's evil too.
Exactly. And it's the Lord Castellian. He says, yes, if this girl is here, then that means the time has come.
Dun dun dun.
They have to make the explanation again. I kind of jumped forward, but he makes the explanation about how he's here to fix all the machines and everything like that. And then I guess we find what Shiki's character quirk is, the same way Natsu got sick anytime they were on a vehicle. He just has narcolepsy. Like, so much so, I don't know what kind of force this dude's head has, because he falls asleep and headbutts his way through the entire table.
Yeah, he just kind of goes, I'm kind of tired.
But then I can only assume that he actually did it, where he's just like, I'm tired. And like headbutted his way on the way down.
Maybe that's his way of putting himself to sleep.
Because he does it. As people have brought up, it's, the same thing. And he does kind of look like Ace, so it is a little bit strange there. But what are you going to do? Anyway, they talk about how Shiki's special. He's been here the entire time. The robot who played the Demon King found him and kind of took him in as his own grandson. And, he's the most respected robot there, or was rather, but he's broken down now. And they're like, we should get to bed, everybody. The last thing we kind of get is Rebecca being like, can I cut his hair? Because it's really bothering me. Cut away. They're going to sleep. She's like, that was great. We made a whole bunch of videos. We're going to get tons of views off of this. Then Shiki wakes up and he's like, why is my hair cut? Eichel, it's awful. My hair's cut. It looks stupid now. I don't like it. And Rebecca wakes up, and of course, because this is a hero series...
my boobs are there. Okay.
We get a first-person shot of her looking at herself being tied up to this post, where she is presumably going to be burned for being a witch or something. I don't know. The robots are going to burn her alive.
It's okay, though. They took her feet off so that, you get that fetish in there as well. There's like 3 fetishes in this scene all in one go. It's very efficient use of time.
Yeah, exactly. All they needed to do was maybe like cut her hair short too, and then do the dominatrix thing in there somewhere. We'll get that next time, I'm sure. I'm trying to think. Do they... Okay, yeah, they do actually give an explanation for why they're going to try to burn her. Shiki tries to, appeal to the Castellian, being like, no, that's my friend. She's from another kingdom. She's not a bad person. He's just like, no, all humans are bad. We robots are not tools to be used by your kind. We're not
I'm going to suddenly be like that one droid character in Solo that was honestly kind of underexplored.
Oh, I was very happy when it died. I hated that thing so much. I don't know why a robot would want a revolution like that, but whatever.
Anyway, it gave me a great idea for this revolution.
So all the robots are basically echoing this, including Michael, who's like, I am not a tool. And, he notes like, oh man, the guys have all been acting wonky recently. And the Castellian explains like, yes, a virus has allowed us to think for ourselves. We have gained sentience and we think not. We are not tools for human convenience. and you cannot fix us. If you try to take a step forward, I'll light her up in flames. And Shiki's just like, what are you doing? I'm gonna make you normal. We're friends, aren't you? And the robot has like an M. Bison moment where like throws off his cloak and he's super jacked. He's like, they built him as
I was
jacked
designed to be swole.
Like, I like that they explain he's like a battle bot, but it really does, like, they were like, I was the one robot designed with pecs.
Look, I have a dancing pecs protocol.
Dun, 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 dun. They put the music in. They said it had to be there.
Every time I flex, a different note plays.
It's called the Brock Lesnar protocol. And they mentioned, like, humans, once this place had humans and machines living in harmony, but we were hardly playing to the roles given to us, and, that stopped when the guests coming. Humans abandoned us, and they simply left. They just discarded us completely, so now is the time for us to strike back. And they kind of continued the whole thing that Shiki's just like, but I'm human, and I'm your friends, and they're just like, fuck you.
But aren't we friends? So fuck off!
Fuck you, pay me. And then the robots all attack him. They're like, they swarm. They try to like jump tackle him, and they actually like start kicking him on the ground. And Rebecca's crying. She's like, this is too much. You guys were all living happy together, and you were partying. Shiki said everyone here are friends. Oh, he said you were friends. And she starts crying. She's like, you can be friends with anyone. It doesn't matter if you're a robot or a human. It doesn't matter. And Shiki recalls the grandfather's message of like, if you have a friend who will shed tears for you, you better treasure that friend. So Shiki awakens his power and reveals that I guess he has gravity controlling powers. I'm not 100% certain if it's that or something more specific than that. He punches people, reveals he has a bunch of like kind of like sigils that line his body that glow with power. And I
will say, I thought that there might be an implication here that this means that he is also a robot, but it does not seem to be the case as you get further into it. So
yeah. So he says, I guess we're not friends anymore. And I love the Castellion's like, friendship is not programmed into our systems.
Friendship does not compute.
I wish that was the line so bad. Your friendship return as error.
File not found.
I blue screened your family. It's like, what?
No, Luke. I 404'd your father.
So the Castellian goes to punch Shiki. Shiki kind of like blasts back and then starts like bouncing around the area. He like rafts himself onto a wall like a Spider-Man kind of pose. And Happy explains, that's ether gear. A power from the Dark Ages. Gears that work on the body's ether flow, reconfiguring it to give him powers. So he's dodging all these laser blasts and everything like that. And Rebecca's stunned. She's like, I can't believe someone out here can use ether gear. And the robot, Castellian continues to like taunt him, and he's just like, you can't do nothing, or you can do nothing. You don't even have the courage to leave this island. And then he just fucking punches himself through the robot, just like crushes him with his gravity fist attack. He's like, oh no, this is all just a ploy to make you leave the island. I didn't think you'd murder me. Oh, it hurts so bad.
Turns out you called my bluff. Jesus Christ.
Fuck. His attack shatters the ground, creates a big hole. Everyone would start falling into it, but it looks again like he can control gravity. So he stops himself, grabs Rebecca, and he says, this is the power I inherited from my grandpa. So which way is your ship? Because everyone here is trying to fight us. So we're going to like teleport our way over there. And there's a final shot he sees where, like, first he's saying, like, oh, I'm going to stay here. And she's like, no, you're not. And he looks into the crowd. And he sees Michael. And he kind of, like, frowns. And it's tough to tell because Michael is a robot who has a static expression with a big smile on it. But I can't tell if this is supposed to be the clue we're supposed to get that Shiki realizes what's going on or not. I'm not entirely certain if he's supposed to or not. I was kind of looking for that clue and I can't tell if that's supposed to be it.
I see your point, yeah.
So the Aqua Wing, which is the name of their ship, takes off. And they're like, wait, that's not like a boat? They're like, you said you wanted to go to the world outside, right? And he's like, yeah, I did say it. She's like, well, it's time to go. And she's like, he's like, what, you mean like other kingdoms? Like, not exactly. And that's when we see, this is a space series, Nick!
I love this reveal, honestly. Like, you spend the entire time thinking it's going to be at least basically like a sci-fi version, I guess, of kind of Fairy Tale or of Rave Master. And I think that this is a part where familiarity with Heroes of the series actually plays into that. And all of a sudden it's like, no, they're going to go explore the fucking galaxy. It's like One Piece, but space, where the islands are planets.
Yeah.
It's a very kind of Super Mario Galaxy kind of feel to it.
And I do love the visual. They explain it this is a Sakura cosmos, and we're in a spaceship. And it's essentially like Sakura petals kind of line the galaxy almost like stars. It's a very, very beautiful image. They explain that Grand Blue Kingdom is actually like a planet. Like, it's part of a planet, essentially, called Blue Garden. Or no, that's where she's from. I don't know if they're supposed to be from the same place or not. I don't know. Anyways, Happy's like, you don't understand what space is? He's like, I mean, yeah, I know space is like, that's where all the stars and shit are.
That's about right, I guess.
And then he's like, wait a minute, what is that? She's like, oh, I'll get up real close. She's like, see, it's something you can see in space. It's a dragon. And we see a giant robotic dragon flying through space. Hey, it turns out that was a dragon he saw as a kid after all. And his grandfather was just trying to go out there and prove it was. And Shiki's really excited about that. And we cut down to the Castellan, who is having like a flashback to everything that's actually been happening. And he's like, yes, you know, it's finally happened. Our repair system is coming to an end, so we must send him to the skies before our time ends. And they actually go on for like a big explanation about this. Like, the Castellan's like, I'm glad it worked. And they're like, yeah, because once we stopped moving, the world he would have been all alone. And he would have stayed here forever and everything like that. And we see a cut to the Demon King, who's like, our lives will only last a few more years. It's a fate we can't avoid anymore. So please, before our time is up, help Shiki, because that boy is going to change the universe. And the demons, as they start to power down in one collective moment, they all, we see Michael saying, great Demon King, we kept our promise. I knew it was going to make him so sad. If I knew it was going to make him feel so lonely, I would have never wanted a heart. Beep, boop, and then they all die. And then there's like a computer program at the base of Grand Blue, or Grand Bell, that says, all bots on planet Grand Bell have ceased functioning. And in space, Shiki starts crying because he knows... this is why I have trouble telling. I don't know if he's sad because of the way things gone. Like, he's like, they were my family at one point.
I don't think it matters. I think that he's just sad for what he's lost, because he knows in his heart that before everything happened that they were friends, even if they... And he says, like, you know, it was like they all went weird at the end, but he knows that the memories that they had together were real, that they all did really care about him. And so he's thankful to all that they did for him when he was growing up.
I think it does matter, though, because the context should be, if he thinks they actually did betray him, because he did start fighting them, because he was like, I guess we're not friends anymore, that he should think that they're not family. Like, he should realize, like, was it all a lie or something like that? Like, if he doesn't realize the ruse, then his last act is like, everyone I've known has betrayed me and tried to kill me, and the only, like, human friend I've ever met. So I have to assume he's in on it. I just was wishing there was a little bit more of a clue that he was. Again, I don't know if that scene with Michael is supposed to indicate that he is or not, because Michael doesn't have a face beyond a painted smile. So, I don't know. But he says, thanks, guys. Thanks for being there. I was never alone. He says, oh, I guess they can't hear me. Can I break the window? Rebecca's like, no! We'll die! And that's the end of the chapter. We get some narration saying that a small step taken today started the journey of Shiki Grand Bell, the man whose name would be remembered throughout the universe. And I don't know if this is supposed to be like the Luffy, I'll start with 10 crewmates. That seems like a good number thing. Because he's like, I'm going to make 100 friends in space. And what we don't realize, Nick, is this is actually a sequel series to 100 Deeds from Eddie McDowell. Where Eddie McDowell is a robot.
How many times have you managed to call back to that stupid goddamn Nick show?
And then mention every time that he never finished. And the actual canon in the world then is that he remains a dog forever.
I really like this. I think this is a great start to the new series, and I'm actually really excited to see where it goes from here. I like a lot of stuff that this chapter did, and I think this is a great starting point for it. I'm excited to see what kind of worlds are in store for us, and what they're going to be doing in them.
Oh, you sweet summer child, Nick. This is going to be garbage eventually, but the first chapter wasn't too bad, so...
Well, I gotta give credit where credit's due, you know? And I think that this backstory for Shiki was actually a really nice one. I really like that, you know, the fact that the hero loses his family actually feels like it has consequence. I think that hero learned after, you know, the whole Wendy thing, that it's like, hey, maybe I should actually, you know, like establish the connection between the guy who's going to lose his surrogate family and the surrogate family, as opposed to like, and here we are with their surrogate family. They weren't real. Bye.
Here's the thing I'll note that kind of has me from getting too invested in this. You know, people are going to make the comparison. They're like, Shiki's just Natsu mixed with Gray and Rebecca is just Lucy. And I think there's enough to separate those characters. The problem is they're in the exact same dynamic that Lucy and Natsu were. And that's what has me kind of worried about this series. At least with, like, when Rave Master went to Fairy Tail, it was a different thing. Like, Natsu found Ellie several chapters in, and there was a little bit of a difference there. But this chapter is the exact same formula of, like, a young girl meets this mysterious boy with crazy powers that people didn't think anything was strange, like people didn't think still existed in this area or anything like that, and they're going to join together to find a place where they belong. It's going
to be all sorts of gravity powers by the end of this series.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm hoping that it goes to a different place, but I don't know. It's the formula for it in the first chapter feels very similar, and that has me a little concerned. I hope this is a great outlet for Hiro to come up with cool ideas, but I hope it's also a place for him to explore narratively what he could do in a series, and it's not just like they gather together with a group of like-minded people to form a guild in space or something like that. Like, I want to see something.
Guilds.
I want to see something different if we can.
I totally get that. All right. Okay, then. Let's finish with Black Clover, page 162. Lightning of Rage versus Friends. Asta's shown up in order to help out Magna and Vanessa, who we're gonna lose to whoever's possessing luck, whatever that dude's name is. So, he's like, you don't have any magic. Hang on, let me do that right. You don't have any magic. So, he's like, I'll kill you. You can't keep up with me. You can't surpass my rage. Blah, 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 blah. Asta asks for help from Magna and Vanessa, and it's like, okay. At least they're using teamwork. Cool. Magna uses kind of like covering fire. Vanessa throws some stones around for Asta to use as platforms. Or I think that actually Luck is using them as platforms. Yeah, it looks like that's what's happening. But they're actually, helping him out during the fight. And so Luck makes a plan. Basically, he's like, I see. So he's using the debris of the battle to actually hide himself so that he can attack me. Because he's got no magic, I can't actually detect him. But all I have to do is actually spread out my mana and detect the spot where your sword is erasing it. And he's like, okay, that makes sense. And he's like, my rage is stronger, as he comes in to attack Asta. And Vanessa's like, yoink, and jerks him out of the way of it. It's like, oh shit, you threw off my timing. And Asta hits him with the sword. That was the chapter of Black Clover! I have very little to say about this, honestly.
I mean,
I don't really have, which is actually probably better than the last few chapters where I'm just like, no, rage!
It does hit upon one of the things that is fun about Black Clover when they're like, here's a bunch of magical teamwork to kind of operate in. But again, it hits that problem we've kind of touched on before, where it's like, why is Asta still the only person who ever gets like the big spotlight in these moments? Like, it's not like it's like, oh, Asta's best friend Luck. It's like, no, it's Magna's best friend Luck. Like, fuck you. Give the spotlight to somebody else at some point in time. I don't know. But it really does feel like Asta was just kind of pushed in here when he feels like he doesn't need to be.
Mm. And on that note, that's it for Manga Recap this week, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us. We record the show normally Thursdays at around 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on smashcast.tv/Weekly Recap at Twitch. Not Weekly Recap /Rollo and Twitch.tv/Rollo. Fuck. I should actually have my script open while we're doing this. Anyway, Chris, before we go through all the other end credits, what are our favorites for this week? Favorite chapter and MVP?
Oh, man, I don't know if I even really thought this one through at all.
I'll go ahead and go and do my first one first. I am picking Eden Zero. I thought this was a great start to the series, and I actually did get a little bit emotional when everything was revealed about the plan to get Shiki off the planet.
I guess I'll give it to My Hero this week. Nothing like really stood out super hard, but I do like the promise of it. I don't know. Yeah, put my hero down. It's not like a very strong opinion on it, but
my favorite, my MVP for the week is Kohaku. I liked her conversation with Senku, and I liked the very short little sub story that was told in this chapter, and kind of the conclusion of her little mini rivalry with Homura.
Part of me wants to give it to the Castellian because I love the jacked robot. But I'll echo Kohaku.
All right. Okay, guys, if you want more of Weekly Manga Recap, you can check out our past episodes on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, as well as our YouTube channel. And, of course, check us out on iTunes, leave a comment, leave a rating. Help us to become kings of the hobby section and knock off the woodworking podcasts. If you want to follow us on social media, the official podcast account is at WMR Podcast, and your hosts are at Rolot and at Nick F. Time. If you want to contact us in other ways in order to do more long-winded stuff, send us feedback, ask us questions, send in questions for our Q&A episodes, blah, 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 suggest some future manga for us to read. In addition, of course, to the Discord chat, as mentioned earlier, send that stuff via email, weeklymangarecap@yahoo.com. We also give out special thanks to our Patreon supporters. Your support allows us to create all sorts of fun bonus content for you guys to enjoy. We recently recorded an As Explained by Manga podcast that features a special guest. So be sure to check that out. And I'll also be putting up notes for this month as well. And special thanks to Steve Mann, our tile artist. You can check his work in a bunch of different places. He has his own Patreon. And to Infamous Planet for talking about CW with us. And this is like the second time that we've talked about CW shows based off of comics properties for a bonus episode. But there you go.
It's good times. I should note we have a recommendation then for next time as well. I don't know if it'll be a 1 week recommendation. Probably not. Seems a little long. But I wanted a sports series. I wanted something that was going to hopefully be fun after the depressing shit show Nick made us read this time.
The guy just like breaks his leg in chapter 1 and then reflects on how much his life sucks for the next 20 chapters after.
True. So I pulled this one from our Discord, which once again you can always find if you go over to the WMR Twitter, or I'll try to include the link on our YouTube as well. So go there. There's a tab for WMR recommendations. I pulled this from there. This is from Flame Fist 96. The series is called Hinomaru Zomu, or Sumo of the Rising Sun, a sumo sports manga that I'm looking forward to us checking out.
Yeah, it's one of the longer running sports series that Shonen Jump's had recently.
Yep. So we're gonna take a look at that one. I don't know how long it'll take. It's been running for a couple years now, so
still ongoing. Yeah.
So there's plenty of room to get in there, but
20 volumes. Woo!
But I wanted to get a sports series in there, and sumo seemed like an interesting sport to hit on.
All right. Well, that's what we'll have for next time, guys. And in the meantime, I hope you all have a good life.
That was a weirdly dark end. We can't end the episode on that.
No, too late. Already done.
Fuck! Sorry, everybody.
Dress up in armor and throw your shit at teenagers.
Life lessons.